View from the Gutters, episode 58. Welcome to View from the Gutters, the comic book podcast where each episode we discuss a collected edition, trade paperback, or graphic novel, and then recommend and vote on the book for the next episode. Warning: the discussion portion of this show has massive spoilers for that book. On this episode, we discuss Daytripper, and to skip ahead to the recommendation section, skip to 103.10. Are you guys ready to be sad talking about this book and yell at me because you don't like it?
I'm not even going to be a little bit sad.
Yeah, because you...
I mean, we're basically going to ignore you like we
always do. All right. Episode 58, View from the Gutters. Welcome to the show. I'm Andrew Chard.
I'm Joe Preti.
I am Tobiah Panshin.
And I'm Cade Reynolds.
And before we get started, I have two quick announcements. So, Long Run episode 5, where we talk about ElfQuest, is going to be coming out between this episode and the next episode. So, if you have not finished reading it yet, or if you haven't started reading it yet, get to, because it's going to be coming out pretty soon.
Also, it's free.
Yeah.
You have no
online.
excuse.
ElfQuest.com. Go and do it.
Yeah.
Announcement
and
number
that's
2.
The first... that's the original quest.
The original quest, Siege at Blue Mountain, and Kings of the Broken Wheel.
Yep.
The first 3 storylines. It's like, I want to say like the first 19 issues or something like that.
No, there's more than that.
The
just
first
in the
one
first
is
2.
20, and then the next one is 9 and 9, I think. Or maybe it was 10.
8 and 8.
Yeah, it's like 16 and 20, so it's like 30-something, almost 40 issues. So not very many. It's 4 trades.
Yeah, it's not as... Well, it's 8 trades.
Well, it's 8 trades the way that they originally published.
Oh, yeah.
But these aren't standard, like, 22-page issues, because, I mean, this all came out in, like, the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
It's not as long as a lot of the long runs we've done.
Well, it's definitely not as long as Ultimate Spider-Man.
Or
Nothing
Empowered.
is as long as Ultimate Spider-Man.
Which was made twice as long by the fact that it was...
Amazing.
Okay, the first 6 or 7 trades of that were awesome. And then... the next 20 of them were not.
Go listen to that episode if you want to hear Joe die inside.
I can't even think about it without dying inside a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
All right.
You know, that's the episode I invented Spiderman for.
Yeah.
That is. And that is the one saving grace.
Yes, you invented him entirely on purpose.
Yeah, he did.
Spiderman.
I was sick that day and a little delirious.
So announcement number 2. We are, as of this recording, in the process right now of joining the Comics Podcast Network.
Yay.
Yay. So by the time it comes out, we should be all done signing up and have their logos on our website and all that great stuff.
So, question. I have no idea what that means. What is this?
Well, it's a website that, like, showcases a lot of comic book podcasts. So if you're looking for new and different podcasts to listen to, like, they're a great place to go to for that. So if you go to their website, they have links to a ton of podcasts on there. So if you guys... listening.
So basically new stuff for me to listen to while I play Hearthstone.
Absolutely. There's tons of good stuff on there. So.
A ton of really great comics podcasts. It's a great way for us to kind of share information with other podcasters.
Yeah, there's a lot of good collaboration going on there.
Collaboration, doing cross-promotion for events. It's just going to be a great way for us to kind of get the word out about View from the Gutters, but then also like learn about other things that are going on in the comics community as a whole.
And also like
awesome.
Hopefully lead to some, maybe collaborations with other shows. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
So go check out the Comics Podcast Network and look for some other cool shows.
Yeah.
But don't listen to them. Only listen to us.
Well, listen to us first.
We're very jealous.
I'm not.
Shh.
You have plenty of time in your day to listen to every podcast.
I don't give a fuck. If we have one listener to this show, it's a success.
No. It's
well,
no.
I'm sorry to tell you.
I'm not spending all this fucking time for one person.
We're not at a success yet.
We're not at success yet.
Yeah, we still have no listeners, and we've actually been getting a lot of really awesome feedback from everybody.
We have been.
So
I
really appreciate that. Thanks, guys. I've been trying to reply to as many comments and stuff as I can. I'm
gonna
go write a lengthy reply to. The comment we received for Back Matter.
Back Matter?
So that's my plan for the day.
I was actually on my Twitter the other day, and I noticed I got really excited because somebody tweeted at me, and I found out it was View from the Gutters, and I was like, oh, damn. Nobody likes me.
You? It wasn't me. Was it you?
It wasn't me.
was not I.
It was just like, I guess it was just an update that I was tagged in or something. I don't know.
Okay.
I just got excited and
I
then
still
found
don't
out
know
it was
how to
one of
use
you
the Twitter.
guys.
I downloaded it and I've looked at it. I still don't know how it works. I'll figure it out.
It's a thing where
too
you like
complicated for me.
yell at the internet and then people
Just put a hashtag before everything and you'll be fine.
Hashtag handsome. Hashtag nighttime tears.
hashtag blessed. Hashtag bean blanket.
Hashtag let's read some comic books.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's read some motherfucking comic books. What are we talking about
This week we're talking about Daytripper.
We are talking about Daytripper.
Gabriel, Fabio Moon, twins from Brazil, their collaboration, the twin brothers. And,
Yep.
So I put absolutely no effort into this whatsoever, but if they're twins, why do they have different names?
They have nom de plumes.
Yeah,
That could
I
just be
guess,
their.
maybe.
That
That
could
is-
just be their writing names or their.
I'm pretty sure it is.
I never actually put that together. Nom de plume is a name. Your
pen name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Nom de Gar.
Nom de Gar. That's a good one.
That's a much better one.
What is
Well,
that?
you know,
That's
That's
a
still-
name of war.
That's a war name. I know that one from the X-Men cartoon in the 90s.
Nice.
More. Now I'm making a sandwich.
That's
Now I'm
actually
gonna-
coming up in my post that I'm talking about. I'm
Is it
talking
really?
about the show.
I think that's good. I think
Yeah.
you should. I think you should also talk about him giving Cyclops a convertible.
I made you a convertible.
Because I don't know how the fuck that works.
No,
If
he
you can
doesn't
explain
even, he
how he
doesn't
does
even tell
it.
him. He just says,
I made you a
he says to
convertible.
Gene, he's like, tell him I made him a convertible. It was awesome.
It is. It's amazing. But yeah, Day
And then they
Tripper.
do it in that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, The Last Man Standing, or what was it called?
The Running Man?
No, Last Man Standing, which me and
Or
Cade
The Last
watched.
Stand?
Oh, well, it was Last Stand. It was Last Stand. Last Man Standing is the Bruce Willis
Anyway,
Red Harvest.
He drives a car under a combine harvester and it turns it into a convertible. And so
Yeah.
I turned to Joe and said, I made you a convertible.
Yeah, it was actually pretty great. I mean, the movie is schlocky and horrible and amazing in that way
It was
that
funny.
only Arnold Schwarzenegger movies can be, that leave you feeling warm and fuzzy and laughy and wonderful, like they used to in the 90s and don't anymore.
Like twins.
Like Twins
And Predator.
and Predator. I like Predator 2 and
That's my favorite.
Raw
Away.
Deal.
That's my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Predator 2.
Predator 2?
Yeah.
I fucking love that movie. I'm not going to lie.
He's not even in that movie.
He's not even. No, he's not. Danny
But
Glover
Gary
is.
Busey.
They should remake that movie with Donald Glover.
They should
Not
make that,
Predator 3, just Predator 2 again.
Does Predator 2 again with Donald Glover?
but
Yeah.
he has to be complaining about how old he is and like not want
That's.
to be on
I
the
think
floor.
that's
Definitely.
fair.
I'd be fine with
That's-
that. But who's
that's
gonna play Gary
definitely
Busey?
Gary Busey.
Obviously, Gary Busey.
Gary
again.
Busey. Zach Braff.
God, that would be perfect.
So, Chard,
Trippers.
you
I
pitched,
pitched
Day Trippers.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I read it again. It made me just as sad.
Yeah.
However, I did not weep at the end this time because I think I was in a much better mood this time than I was last time I read it. But I just fell in love with the way that the book is laid out this time. Like the pacing of this book and how the story is told to you primarily through the art first. And them I know that Gabriel Baugh's art is something that I've always been a fan of via the Umbrella Academy, which is a fantastic book. And I just fell in love with the layout and the storytelling all over again, and how quickly they're able to represent that time has passed between the end of each issue. Like the issue ends with essentially what you see as, you know, what caused the death of
The obit.
boss, right? What's his name?
His name is
Braish?
Yeah,
Brecht.
Bras.
yeah, and he.
I thought it was a long A with the thing over it.
It is. It should be
It is.
Braise?
I think it's.
Bras.
It's Portuguese, so I don't think it's.
I don't
Braise.
know.
I think the.
I don't
Maybe
know
so.
any Portuguese. My language skills are limited.
Anyway,
However, I just like that the end of one issue will be the death of that character, and the very next issue you don't feel like you've like you're lost at all because it's really easy to connect through the way the art is laid out that time has passed.
Yeah.
And that things are different. And the flashbacks feel different than the main story. And when he tells a story that is from his childhood, the art is a little bit different. The art is, it's more fun. There's a lot more space. That's one of my favorite issues, actually, is when he's a kid and it's like the time he's spending with his family.
Yeah.
And I love that issue doesn't happen until like halfway into the story. And I love that it's told out of chronological order.
Yes.
And just like how at the beginning of the story they introduce you to him in like a very interesting time in his life, at a time in his life when he's not stable. And I think that the book could have really failed if you had started with introducing him when he has a kid and he's married and everything's good.
Yeah, I think
that was... Oh, sorry, Joe.
No, go ahead.
One of my favorite parts of the book was, like, at the end of issue 8, you could tell that they had plotted the whole thing in a chronological order because events from book 8 happen, or they're referenced in book 1, even though they haven't happened yet.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty incredible.
It's just...
the way that they had mapped it out.
Yeah, I just think that it's a lot of smart planning went into this book.
Absolutely.
And like, for a lot of independent creators, like that's something that falls through the gaps.
Yeah.
Is they're like, well, let's start to get this book out, very quickly, and let's, we'll figure out the details later. And this book felt like all the details were already in place before the first issue came out. And maybe that's not true. Maybe that's just the feeling I get from reading it. But
I think it would be difficult to do if they didn't go into this knowing exactly what they wanted to tell and how they wanted to tell it, because there is an ebb and flow to, and each issue is important, especially when you get to the end and you're kind of, it's all tied up together. Each issue kind of imparts a different a different key, to understanding the whole. And
I love the coloring in this book. There's so much like subtle stuff that you don't really notice at first. Like I'm looking at a panel where it's him looking at this. I wish there were page numbers. Oh, it's 146. It's the page numbers on the opposite page, but it's of the trade paperback. And it's him like looking at a kettle, and his wife is standing next to him with her hand on his back. And the back wall is all gray, except around the wife's shirt, which is green. There's this like blur of color out from her shirt onto the wall.
Can you hold it up?
Yeah. And it's just like really subtle stuff that is not, it's not art mistakes, but it just like makes it, I think it's totally intentional, and it makes stuff look a little bit more surreal.
Yeah, there's a glow on his leg too.
Yeah, and it's like this color. Yeah, and the color is just like fantastic in this book. I talk about coloring a lot because I think it just can solidify the mood of a scene so well.
It's something that I feel like I've gained an appreciation for the first time on this podcast. Like really looking at the books closely and talking about the colors a lot. Like it really does make a huge amount of difference. Actually, I'm just going to quickly reference this in ElfQuest. I was looking online at the different versions because we talked a little bit, I think, off the mics about how the ones you can find online are digitally recolored from the print editions that I own. And I was looking at the black and white versions versus the colored versions, and just how much of a difference that makes to the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's something we will talk about on ElfQuest, I'm sure. And we talked about it on the Killing Joke episode as well.
Yeah.
But before I did this podcast, I didn't put as much stock in the coloring. Like, a new recolored edition came out. That's great. It looks pretty. I didn't really understand a lot until we started doing this podcast, and then it became much different to look at.
Coloring has always been something that I've been fascinated by just because it's something that I really like. So I pay a lot of attention to it. But it's so important in the comic book industry because we expect our Western comics to be in color. Like if the majority were black and white, like I would think a lot differently about it. Like if this were manga, I would think a lot differently about it because the norm there is black and white. But because everything is colored in Western comics, there's so many colorists who aren't as skilled as other colorists, and seeing the difference between those on a book, I mean, a color can ruin a book as fast as bad writing, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the coloring really handles a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of what lighting would do in a filmed production.
Oh,
And
yeah.
having done like some film production in the last couple of years and learned about like how lighting works and using gels and putting up colors and the way that it really does set the scene.
Yeah.
And like just how critically important it is when it's something that I'd always ignored all the time I was growing up. Like I never really paid attention to lighting. And now with this and comics and looking at it in film, like it is of critical importance to like really appreciate the way that coloring and lighting within a comic really sets the emotional stage. I mean, we talked extensively on the X-Force episode about just how much Dean White's colors affect the mood of that series.
And because he was the colorist for the entire series, like how well that tied all of that together.
Yeah, especially because there were a few different artists, like pencilers and inkers that worked on it. But he was the colorist throughout. And I think that really tied the series together.
I agree.
Something to point out is actually that oftentimes when you say that coloring can make or break a book, a lot of the times people don't realize it because they attribute it to bad art. But it could be stellar art, actually, but the color is off. That could
and it can be not that great art, and the color can really save
it. We were having this conversation about Jim Lee the other day about it
without Alex Sinclair. Hush is very boring.
Yeah.
And they put out the pencil edition of Hush, like which is just Jim Lee's pencils, like I don't remember what it's called. It's like unfiltered or something. I can't remember what it's called. Unmasked, maybe. I don't know. It's Hush something, and it's just black and white. It's just Jim Lee's pencils, and then for the most part, like Jim Lee's, he's talented and like he can draw a line well, but there are some scenes in that book that totally fail without the colors. Like the scene where Alfred is, he's like. Doing surgery or something on Batman, and there's all these floating computer panels all around him. None of that is in the pencils. Like all those green panels are there afterwards, added in the color and afterwards, and the glow of those green monitors on everything in that scene like makes that scene so much different.
Absolutely.
I don't remember if we talked about this on the show or not, but Toby and I have talked off the show about the lighting from the old Star Trek show. Yeah. Because they used to put gels and use that just to splash up on like the back walls.
Yeah, they put up like greens and purples or reds and oranges and stuff. One of the film production things that I was doing, I think I've mentioned this briefly on the show before, but it was a Star Trek parody.
Yeah.
And so we were going for that look specifically. I was like, whoa, these colors are crazy.
Yeah.
And like, it really did set the scene.
It makes everything look more alien and different, and like that's what that show was all about, and it works so well. So I just
it's this really subtle thing.
And even now in like major motion pictures and film, like there are guys that their only job is color correction for the entire film. Like they sit there and go frame by frame and be like, okay, this scene would be better if we had like a slight blue tint to it, and they can do all that later in the computer, and it's like. That's changed the way we make films a lot.
And it's a little unfortunate too because there's a lot of lazy color correction that goes on where it's just like superly, ridiculously oversaturated with like blue and cyan.
Yeah, but it can be done really.
Or not blue and cyan, orange and cyan.
It can be really subtly done, and in the Matrix, it's like fairly obvious that everything in the Matrix has like a slight green tint to it, and everything in the real world outside of the Matrix is like more of a blue tint to it. And like that was kind of subtle at the beginning, but like became a lot more apparent as the movies went on. And if you watch the extra features on Lord of the Rings, like one of my favorite things that they talk about is the color correction that they did for that to like really bring out the greens in Hobbiton and like really make everything pop. Mm-hmm. And I think in color in comics like is it's so important to set the feeling of the scene by not only are you using warm or dark colors, but like what colors you're using for the backgrounds. And
yeah, we talked about in our episode on Revival how the color really detracts from that book because everything's just got this kind of omnipresent lighting.
It's way too well lit
over it,
and there's like scenes that should be really dark and ominous that like sort of miss the mark because there's too much color. There's too much visible information. Well, and I don't think that's Mike Norton's pencils at all because I love Mike Norton's pencils.
Yeah.
Like when he did All New Adam with Gail Simone, like his pencils are fucking amazing on that book.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just something that I noticed this time through that like all the mood is set primarily through the art and the colors and less so through the dialogue. And I think because they knew they were relying on an excellent artist. Like they could do that. They have the ability to do that.
The feel of the book is important because this book really feels cinematic to me, and it's very, very European.
Yeah,
in the way that it's told, but
it does have a very Euro comics feel. Now you mention it.
I mean, the colors that are used are very. You would not. The story would not have hit me as hard were it not so. It made the important part step out. It's very warm. It's very mellow. And there's a lot thought put into it. But I mean, the art in this book is one of the things that stood out to me.
Well, do you want to talk about your feelings about it a little bit?
I just want to mention one panel. Page 80 in the trade where he gets hit by the van is just that all red panel that just says Thunk in the middle. It's
amazing.
like fantastic coloring. It's just one color, but it was like the right selection for that panel. Yeah, but Joe, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, I finished this yesterday, and I had read the first 2 or 3 issues previously because I was on the interwebs and people were just gushing about it, and I was really interested in reading it, and I think it may have been. I can't remember exactly why I stopped reading it, but I mean, I really, really enjoyed this. I totally was crying like a little girl when I was finished with it. It hit me hard, and I think it hit me hard not just because I think the message really resonated with me, but because I'm a dad, and
your dad. Like you have a really close relationship with your dad.
I'm super close with my dad, and
who's had health issues, and
and I've struggled with being a son to him, which is what this is about. This is about your father setting an example, and you you wrestling with that example, and that example being what manhood is. It's what you.
Well, I mean, what the generational struggle is, too.
Because
you are combating a whole different universe than, like, your parents had to combat. And so their answers aren't necessarily your answers, and this book is all about that,
Yeah.
And it hits me specifically hard, because my dad is in business. That's what he did, and I don't do anything even closely related to that. And so we have a lot of hard time, like, communicating just on like what the kind of world we live in is. Because he's like, oh, no, you go work for a company and you get hired there and you work there for 25 years. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Not only does that not really exist anymore, but that's like not really the field that I'm in, So
that's
like,
not.
It's just like
you're not really a 9-to-5 guy.
I'm not really a 9-to-5 guy. Like I want to be more of an artist, and so like obviously you don't keep the same schedule, and so it's just like the generational differences, and like I grew up in a very different world. Than my dad did.
Yeah, and I think that it's a little bit that, but it's also the fact that I look at my dad's life and the ways in which he provided for me, and then I look at me as a father and the ways I provide for my daughter, and they're completely different things, and they manifest themselves in completely different ways.
Yeah,
and I think the thing that hit me the hardest though is when he's reading the letter and he says, "The minute you have a kid, your life no longer belongs to you," and that really hit me because it's true. It's true in this really like profound way. And people are like, "Oh, kids prevent you from going up, blah 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 blah." But it's like there is nothing in my life that is as satisfying as being a dad.
Yeah.
And I mean,
and I know that the other two dads on the show, like Matt and Aaron.
Oh yeah, no, they would totally have my back on this. Yeah, no, we've talked about it, and it's there's just a feeling that like comes with it where it's not just about like protecting your kid from the world, but it's about sharing what about the world. I think that's where a lot of conflict comes because Audrey's 12 now, so she's been there, she's seen it all, right? She got the fucking T-shirt,
she knows everything.
But it's this kind of like monumental feeling of like this is the world, right? And it's not just all the shit that happens that you have to deal with because you're a girl. There's also all this amazing shit that's going on too, and that's like. It's almost the harder stuff because you're like, look at how amazing she is. And she's like, I'm texting somebody, Dad. I'm sorry.
No,
and it's just like, but I know that like, she's still wants to, like, we're watching Veronica Mars right now, and I was talking to my girlfriend, and I'm like, we'll watch it together. She goes, no, Dad, that's our show. We watch that together in the mornings.
It's like
and I was
Banjo.
like, I don't want to, what? Yeah, right? It's like, I don't want to fuck with that, so I'll just leave that alone. But this, I mean, it's
a story about family.
It is.
You know, I don't have a big family like this, but even me coming from a small family, like, can really relate to, like, the family stuff. And that, again, one of the reasons I love that story when he's a kid the most is just, like, it's just the family at the heart, at like, the height of their happiness.
Well, it's like it is when I was a kid and we'd go back to New York. It would be very much like that.
Yeah.
There'd be all these people I didn't know, but then there would be the people that I definitely knew that were my dad's and brothers and sisters and stuff. And that was great. We used to have Sunday dinner with my grandma. And so that, I really, there's like nothing about this book that I didn't like. This book is damn near perfect for me.
Yeah.
And I just
agree.
think that
I think just like as a craft of comics is one of the best.
Yeah,
put
exactly.
together comics
And
I've
as
ever
like
seen.
an expression of what the medium can be used for, I think it's brilliant. And there's so many points at which it could have gone wrong and could have fallen to like sentimentality and kind of like saccharine sweetness, which I think Craig Thompson falls victim to in Blankets, which is kind of like,
well, also they don't kill the character at the end of every story and then show you 20 pages of you supposed to be sad.
Right.
You turn the page and he's alive again.
and it's meant to.
So it's meant to be more of a metaphor than it is like,
Absolutely.
oh, look, we killed the character, now you're sad.
But then I think
like,
those moments when you turn the page they jar you, and they're meant to jar you because that's the nature of death. No matter how old somebody is, no matter how long they've been around, no matter how sick they are, it's still a jarring moment when somebody dies.
And it's
so,
not the death that makes me sad in this book. Like at the end of
No,
every
absolutely
issue, like,
not.
I'm not sad because of that. I'm sad because like it makes you imagine a world in which the character, this is the life that he wouldn't have gotten to live if he had died all the times that he died. Right?
Well,
and because you get to see his whole life, and then when he dies at the end, and it's like this whole, you know, conversation he has with his father sort of in the afterlife, aftermath of all of this, it really ties that all together, and it's just like, like everybody's life is important, you know? And
he's chasing, like in all those scenes, he's chasing something, right? He's trying to find his own voice. He's chasing a woman that he loves or that he lusts after,
or his friend,
or what have you. And at the end, he doesn't have to be chasing anything because he's found it. And it's not a thing that you can find, right? Which has got this whole like kind of art house quality to it, where it's very subtle. But that image of him standing in the ocean at the end, it's just that's it, right? It's you don't have to look anymore. You've done what you were here to do, which is live life, right?
Yeah.
That's what I love about it. There's no like fucking platitudinous bullshit or like super metaphor, like heavy-handed bullshit going on at the end of this book.
Be a good
like,
person.
be a good person, or like, no, live life to the fullest. It's just like, this is it. This is what you
enjoy the time
get.
that you've been given.
Yeah.
And just make the best of what you have. And like, I think that's a fantastic message.
Yeah, because he doesn't know. That's the great thing. It's like, there's never a mention of it, right? It's like, at the end of every issue, it's like, this is how this story could have ended, but it didn't end there.
Right.
It ends here. And it's not a thing where like, he knows and they've all been narrowly missed death experience. No, fuck that. It's just, the story could have ended here. And I really, really like that as a plot device. I really like that.
Cade, what did you think about this book?
Well, my opinions on it went back and forth throughout the time I was reading it, because this book was very overhyped to me, I felt.
That's
what I'm good at.
I didn't.
Chard reads
I didn't really feel that it was all that great at first. I was hit hard by the one where he dies at 11, because kids dying is fucking horrible. Always, there is no.
What if that kid had been Hitler, Cade?
Yeah.
That's a conundrum. I hate that you put me on the spot right there. Because at the same time, if you went back in time and met Hitler there's a good chance you ruined the time continuum enough that he is not going to kill all the Jews.
Maybe his mom didn't spell that, or he didn't spell that juice.
I hate the juice. The juice.
Yeah, I told a really bad juice / juice joke the other day that was awful.
But if you kill Hitler, then we're just going to have to fight the Brotherhood of Nod.
That's not a good idea.
And dinosaurs.
That's not a good idea. I mean, killing Hitler. But I was just...
Okay, so yeah.
Kids dying is extra sad.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that
Same
issue did hit me kind of hard. But other than that, I didn't like the book until the very, very end. It was that last issue that did it for me because it's just so true.
Yeah.
Like, literally, everybody dies, and we have the time that we have, and when we're not needed anymore, that's when we go.
Well, and I like the comparison to it as literature too. It's like your death is the end of the story, and without an ending, a story doesn't have as much meaning.
Yeah.
I thought that was very clever.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love how the end of each story is written, not just as an obituary, but as the style of obituary that Bras would write.
Right, yeah.
I thought that was really nice. I like that. It lent this like thread of continuity.
Well, and it also is nice because through the whole book, you never really question that Bras's dad is a novelist or that he wants to be one.
Uh-huh.
And at the end, it's revealed to you like why they chose that as characters.
Yeah,
because it is a literary metaphor.
Absolutely,
they're, like, trying to, convey.
Yeah,
yeah. So it makes sense that like a novelist would convey.
Yeah.
That
So mainly, it was reading the each issue. I didn't really like each issue, but then as a whole, it came together.
Toby, what do you think about this book?
It's very technically proficient.
That's what's going to go on the back of the book from now on.
God, I hope so.
It's very technically proficient.
I mean, as we were talking about, the art is decent. Like it's like they obviously did a good job of structuring the story.
Uh-huh.
I fucking hated this comic.
We knew that you would.
Hated it so much.
Yeah, it's an Eisner Award winner. So
as you have so artfully put it in the past, I thought that this was trash garbage.
Yeah. Well,
it was bland and boring and schmaltzy and self-sentimental, and I ended it feeling like I had learned nothing and I had gained nothing and I had lost an hour of my life that I'm never going to get back.
So moving on.
All right, let's move on to recommendations.
No. I need to rant about this more because this book is just so fucking ridiculously parochial. Like it has this incredibly small-minded, like there's no greater purpose in life. It's just this thing that happens and you live or you die and none of it has any goddamn meaning.
That's kind of how it is, though.
That is how it is.
That's exactly how it is.
I refuse to accept that on every conceivable level.
Well, that's what Jesus said, so that's what I'm
bullshit. Like, the more I think about this book, the more I listen to you guys talk about it, the more I fucking hate it.
I think you've missed the point by like a mile.
No, I think he absolutely gets the point.
I think you're looking. I mean,
I get the point that they're trying to make. I just disagree with it.
Yeah, Toby doesn't agree that life is meaningless and everything's shitty, and that the universe doesn't really care.
Well, I don't think he's saying it's not about everything being shitty. It's about it is what it is. Well, like you get what you fucking get. I mean, which is the truth. Like if you don't believe that, then I don't know what to tell you. Like you get what you get.
And you're also. I just love the idea that you're not special at all. But that because you're not special, because no one is special, that is the same thing as saying, like, everyone's special for exactly what they do.
Oh, God.
It is. It's exactly what it is.
It is
it's like,
true.
Like, no one is more important than anyone else in the entire universe.
Okay, you know how I felt reading this? I felt like I was staring at affirmational refrigerator magnets on my, like, overly religious aunt's fucking refrigerator at some god-awful family reunion filled with people that I've never met and don't care about.
But what about the idea that this is all the time you have on the earth, so what you do is important. Like, what about that don't you agree with?
Well, he obviously
that's the thing. I didn't get the message that like what you do is important.
Room.
Like I got the message that nothing that you do is important.
No,
But
that's
that's
not
the
it
same
at all.
thing as saying that
it's
everything is as important as
it's
everything
not
else.
it at all. There's no fucking judgment placed on what you do.
Yeah.
He's saying what you do is what you do. That's it. And when your story is over, it's fucking over.
And it's not
Like this is about a legacy, right? This whole thing is about his father and him and his son.
and just the idea that
I mean, I think what I'm getting at here.
Ultimately, I believe that fiction should be a call to something bigger and better than yourself. That you should be looking at it as a pathway to create something greater.
Well,
and
it is
of higher purpose.
it is what it's about.
I didn't get that from it.
because it's about creating a family. It's about creating a legacy and about creating like the whole point of the end, where you see his son grown, is to show that like what he did with his life resulted in another life, which is very important.
Which resulted
Well, yeah,
in
that's
lives.
very important, but there needs to be more than that.
And, like, why?
Oh, it doesn't.
Yes, there does.
Why? I mean, like, just because there should be more than that? Like,
Yeah, because you should
I think
aspire
that-
to more than simply reproducing.
I agree. Like, I think
So
that I
as-
should just sprout wings and go
Well,
fly
no,
around.
I'm
but, like,
gonna
unfortunately, the
say
world doesn't
this.
work
I'm
like
gonna-
that.
Well, then fucking invent wings.
I mean, like, that would be great.
Spend your
Hold on.
life inventing wings so that you can fly.
I mean, it is...
Whatever
He
form
does
wings
more than
takes
that.
for
I
you in
do
your
more than
personal
that.
life, you should always be aspiring to go over the next hill.
And
He
I
writes.
absolutely...
He writes. He becomes a
Yeah,
novelist in
yeah.
this. He does do more than just make a
yeah,
family.
but it's not about his writing. You never see his writing.
Yes, you
don't-
fucking do.
You get his
You
book.
see it on several pages. His book becomes the central theme of the last half of the fucking story.
People
Yeah, but you
meet
don't
him
know
on
any.
the-
Like,
I
what's
lied
his book
not
about?
yelling.
People... It doesn't matter
about
what his book is
him,
about,
and it's about
him.
life.
And people meet him on the airplane and are enriched by what he did in his life. Like, he wrote a book, and it made other people happy.
Yes.
And that's great. Like,
he's
what
talking
he does,
about
his
that on the
legacy.
plane, about the people that meet him, and about the lives that he's touched with his book, even though he doesn't know them, even though he knows they're not his real friends. He talks about having that connection.
And
It's also a connection to his father, because it's what his father
he's
did.
enriched. He's enriched his parents' life. He's enriched his kids' life. He's enriched his wife's life. He's enriched everybody that's ever read his obituaries and felt satisfied by the fact that that person got a good send off. He enriched everyone's life that he wrote with his book. Like, he does fantastic things in his book. No, he doesn't move the moon in front of an asteroid to save the planet, but like what he does is equally important, and that's what's. This book is about humanity.
Yes.
This book is about like what you do as a human matters. The universe is made up of vibrations. And after you die, the vibrations that you created exist far past what you did in your lifetime. And so putting out the right kinds of vibrations are important. Like, that's what this book is about.
I agree with you entirely. I did not get that from this book.
Well, you didn't read it properly then. It's right in fucking front of you.
That's what I was waiting for. I think we're all missing the point that the reason Toby didn't like this is because he's a robot.
Well,
And
I just
I
think
know this for
the
a while.
pieces are all there. If you choose to put the
No,
puzzle
I
pieces
don't
together or not,
see-
the puzzle isn't broken because it comes in the box in many pieces. Like,
Yeah.
it's your job to put it together as a reader. Like, that's when the work of art is finished, is when you figure out what the fuck is in the book and interpret it and go, now this work of art is complete because I have interpreted it. It wasn't done until I read it.
I agree. Again, I agree with you 100%. I feel like I've said those exact things before.
and we
I didn't
have
get
definitely-
any of that out of this book.
But I think
it's
that
all
has
in there.
more
It
to
was
do
just-
with the way you read it.
it was full of nothing.
But
It's not, though.
I know you well enough to this point to know that you read the first issue of this and you were like, nah. And then
That's
as you read
not
more and
true.
more, as
I
you
also-
read more
you
and
can't
more,
say that it's full of
you
nothing, like,
found
events
reasons why
happen.
you didn't like it.
I guess one of the things is that it's pure character. There is no plot in this book.
That's not true either.
No, there is a plot going
Like,
on
the
in this
fact that
book.
he meets guy meets girl, they fall in love together
okay, but
in
that
a
is all
vacation.
character-driven plot and not.
Well, no,
There is something of a plot.
there's a majority
It's
of
told
the plot.
out of order, which I think is a problem with the book. Like, I think I might have liked this more if it was in chronological order.
Which I mean, I
Because
understand.
then you could have built on the ideas from the previous events.
But you
And I
do
feel like
kind
that
of.
is diminished by the fact that it's told out of order. So it's like you see something and then much later you kind of get where that came from, but its impact is diminished.
I think that's the brilliance of this book, and also the brilliance of Arrested Development Season 4 is because like, you have to figure out where they go once you see it.
I felt and I think that's a fair point. I think the reason that it's done there, what it felt like to me was, in keeping with the theme of this is like how you think about things, right? Like I don't think of my life linearly. I'll be doing something and it'll make me think of this moment when I was hanging out of the fucking third-story window of my grandmother's house that I still can't remember why I was doing that. And my uncle pulling me back in.
The past, not the future.
But he's not. He at the end. That's why the last story of this is him at 78.
Right.
Is
it's
because
all a flash. I mean, essentially, it's all flashbacks. It's like him remembering his life.
Yes, but I didn't feel like the stories flowed from one to the next with any sort of circumstantial connection.
The first two stories are exactly chronologically put into place. Like the story where he the first story.
The first story he's 32. The second story he's like 20.
So not the first
24.
one. But actually,
there are two that are in order. I just can't remember.
What's really interesting is the first one I read was the one where he goes to the one where he's 21.
Right, that's the second story.
And
then the one right after that, they have the girl again as if he hadn't died.
It's 22 and then 28 are in chronological order.
Well,
and then, but yeah, that first one is later. But it's like I think that I just think that it's important to have you not know enough right away. Like, it's important to reveal things slowly to you over time because you have to figure out not only what the book is trying to say, but what the book is actually about.
Yeah, and I didn't get any of that.
I mean,
I didn't get anything out of it. I read it and I went, okay, that's a thing.
And that's fine.
There's
plenty
fair.
of ideas for like art's sake, but it doesn't make the book bad because you didn't like it. Like, the book is fantastic.
I never said the book was bad. I said it was technically proficient.
I think it just...
I said I hated it.
Yeah.
I thought it was awful.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
I think it's just been a while since we all yelled at each other.
Well,
and honestly, now talking about it, I wonder if I would have liked it more if it was told in reverse chronological order. If the last issue was the first thing that you read where he's old, and then with each issue, it's tracing his life backwards.
I think we both have, I think, a tendency to do things where we'll start something, and the first time we see something we don't like, and at least for me, it becomes, I start collecting those things.
You guys don't even need to open the book to hate it. If there's a name on the goddamn cover you don't like, the book is automatically bad.
That's not
necessarily
true.
That is not a legitimate point,
true.
because that assumption is based on prior experience. I assume that I'm not going to like something by Mark Miller because I've read shit by Mark Miller before.
That's an incorrect way to read a book.
That is entirely legitimate.
Okay, wait, hold on a second.
To enjoy a piece of fiction, you have to forget everything that you already know.
So would you read another Tony Hillerman book?
Yes.
Would you really?
Yeah.
Okay, I have one picked out. Let's do it.
Yeah. I know. I'm not opposed to reading a book just because I read something about that from that person I didn't like.
That's true.
There are Robert Ludlum books that I don't like. There are also Robert Ludlum books that I love. And if I had read them in the opposite order of I read the one I didn't like first, I would have missed out on the ones that are really fucking good.
Most of the general public will actually pick up a book off the shelf, see the author's name, and they would put it back if it's by somebody who's
and most of the general public are fucking idiots.
Well, okay, if I read one thing by somebody and I don't like it, I'm not going to go, oh, I hate everything by this guy. I'm going to go, well, I didn't like that. What else is there? Obviously, people are saying good things about it, so there's got to be something to recommend it. So what else can I look at that maybe I'm going to like more? But after I've read 3, 4, 5 things by an author and I hated all of them, I'm going to say to myself, I don't like that author. I'm not going to read more things by
him. And that's fair. That's a fine choice. But in my personal opinion is that, like, that's not enough. Like, it takes... Great artists aren't always born the first book they write. Like, not everyone can be, that author that's just, like, their first book is a fucking breakout. Not everyone can be, who's the guy that wrote Fight Club? Chuck Palahniuk. Like, some artists take fucking 30 years
and
of writing to become really good. Like, look at George R. R. Martin, who wrote and was rejected from like almost every magazine he submitted to for at least the first 5, if not 10 years of his writing career. Like, people get better.
Yeah, and I agree with you entirely.
Yeah,
I
fair.
read Phonogram by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, and I thought it was mediocre.
Yeah.
But there were things in it that I liked. There were
Right.
the spark of good ideas, and so I followed their careers, and they have both gotten enormously better over time.
And I think in my defense, I would probably not read another Wolverine book by Mark Millar. That's fine. But if you tell me he's doing something else, I'll fucking honestly give it another shot. Because I'm not going to go back, I'm not going to fucking read Ultimates 2 after reading Ultimates. I'm sorry. It's just, I don't like what he's fucking doing with that, and I don't see any reason why he wouldn't change. But you tell me he's doing something in, more hardcore sci-fi vein? Yeah, I'll check that out.
But it's
Maybe
not,
he has mellowed.
The idea is that having preconceived notions about an author before you go into the book, regardless if you're consciously trying to have them or not, it ruins the book.
Well, and I think I always do my best to try and put those aside. And I will admit that sometimes I can't.
Because
but
I think that if you handed me a Tony Hillerman book and you told me it was a Tony Hillerman book, I would like it a lot less than if you handed me a book with no cover and no title page and just said, try this police procedural. I would try it. And I would have a lot different of opinion than if I saw Tony Hillerman on the cover. No one is immune from that.
Yeah,
keep in mind that you're somebody who hates any kind of information going into something.
I really do.
Whereas I love to be pre-spoiled on things.
And
I need to keep, I don't mind knowing the what, it's how great it is that fucking kind of kills me. I need to have manageable expectations. Which is why
Well,
Which is why I felt this book was overhyped to me.
Well, and this is why I understand that most people like information about a book before they read it, which is why we do our pitches on the show on air,
absolutely,
rather than just telling you what we're going to read next time. It's part of the reason why I built that into the format of the show when I started it, was because most people need to know something about the book before they start. Most people aren't me. I understand that that's a thing, but I also feel hesitant telling people what the book is about. Just because I know that I wouldn't like that.
I think
but you have to, most people need that.
It's tricky to
Working
do it in a
the
way.
comic book store, I had to tell people what the book was about to sell it to, obviously.
No, I need context. And I need a frame of reference and who the author is as part of that.
Yeah.
Because everything that, past is precedent. Everything that an author has done before is an influence on that work.
And
you can say that about directors too. Joss Whedon is a good example.
Yeah.
A lot of people will go see his stuff just because he's the writer. And most of the time people will like the new direction. I mean, almost everything he's done is different.
Yeah, I think that the context for Planetary is incredibly different if you haven't read anything by Warren Ellis before, especially Stormwatch and Authority. Even though they're not the same title.
Related,
they're not technically related. They're in the same universe. But the things that happen in those works and that happen in Transmetropolitan are of influence on what's going on in Planetary and how you read it.
But I think that it shouldn't be...
Planetary started out as a Vertigo book, was it? Did it
No.
start out as
it's
Wildstorm?
Okay.
It was always Wildstorm. It was a Wildstorm DC. It was Wildstorm, and then later packaged as Wildstorm DC, and then DC, and then Wildstorm DC, and now just DC again, I think.
Something
It's
like
confusing.
that.
But I think that although you are correct, it does color your opinion of the work. I don't think it should.
I would not say that it colors your opinion of the work. I would say that it flavors it.
See,
Semantics.
I'm also...
However,
I think that there's a difference there.
There's no difference between color and flavor.
There is a world
there's a
of
huge difference
because
color you see and flavor you taste.
But there's still things that have a electric impulse into your brain. You still you can't taste color and you can't see flavor. So
unless you have synesthesia.
No, you see, you hear color.
No,
with
it could be
synesthesia.
any one of those things. It's where your sensory inputs get all fucked up, and you could taste color, and you could see
let me put it this
music
way.
and hear numbers, and it's great.
If you look at one painting and then you look at another painting, maybe the first painting is going to influence the way that you look at the second one a little bit.
Yeah, obviously.
But if you're eating a meal and you've got a particular taste on your tongue, and then you eat a different piece of food with a different taste, those two tastes are going to interact in a very strong and meaningful way.
Peanut butter and chocolate
blend together.
I mean,
Like,
we're not going to spend the next fucking 15 minutes hearing you guys argue about the semantic difference between color and flavor. All right?
think it's semantics.
Because that is not a productive conversation.
I think it's semantics. I think that I understand what you're saying, that like these are experiences are going to mix in your mind, and I'm saying that you should pretend that you're 4 years old and you don't want to mix your food together.
I never want to do that.
I always do that. I've done that my entire life.
Yeah, me too. But
I think that everything that I've ever seen and experienced informs my reaction to things that I read and experience now.
Definitely, but I think
necessarily so.
I think that it should be your effort, as especially if you want to be a critic, to attempt to separate every work from another work, because you have to start from ground zero.
I 100%
don't know that you
disagree.
can.
I don't think any no piece of artwork exists in a vacuum.
Yeah, and you're going to be I mean, and this is a huge philosophical argument that's been going on forever, right?
Right.
Can you get rid of all bias? Can you be completely objective? And like, that's not something I even want to get into right now.
Well,
but I will tell you
but
this:
I think
like,
that it should be your aim when you're looking at something, because I'm not talking about knowing the technical aspects of how something works.
No,
because
absolutely.
knowing how cinematography is done helps you be a critic of cinematography.
Right.
But necessarily judging the cinematography of one movie versus another person's idea of cinematography isn't helpful, because everybody has a different idea of how that works. Like, they should exist separate from one another.
Well, and I think that you can. I definitely.
I don't think that they can.
Well,
I honestly don't.
They may not be able to, but I think that it should be your intent to try to separate the craft from from other people who have attempted your craft.
I think that artwork is inextricable from itself. Like, it all exists within a spectrum. And part of being a good critic is understanding what's come before. Especially because so many things are, in one way or another, referential to the things that have come
and
before.
I think that something can have a place somewhere without it being a place that's comparative to other things.
But it's almost impossible to separate nostalgia from, like, from the how good it is. You know what I mean? Like,
but
people will look at old video games or old movies and be like, and old music, specifically old music, and say, oh, things were just better back then.
Right.
And are they being a good critic, or are they just so colored by...
Well, I think that's the reason why museum curators exist as a thing.
Yeah.
Because when you go to a museum, you're not looking at each individual piece of artwork just by itself with no greater context. Like, just the context of the way that the artwork is arranged in the museum and the order in which you see things, and like how you walk into a room and you see the painting that's directly in front of you, and then you kind of tour the room and like you look at the paintings in a certain order, and that influences your perception of them. Well, and I think that that's true on some level of all art.
Well, I think it's important if you're looking at a fucking like if you're looking at a Picasso and it's the only painting you've seen in your life, then you're going to interpret it in a completely different way than if you've studied him, or if you like Cubist art or Surrealist art or whatever. But I think the thing is that I think what you're saying is that should not be a comparative thing, because art cannot. You're saying that art influences other art in perception. You're saying that art...
Well, I'm also saying that, but I'm saying that you should do your best to separate that, because comparing one work of art to another isn't necessarily helpful to understanding what this new piece of art is
I
saying.
agree with you, but I don't necessarily think that just because an experience you've had in your past influences something, that means it's a comparative experience. Because it could just be something that helps you find a place for it in your head. So like when you think like the fact that the fact that one's, grounded by Superman grounded is kind of weird in a few places doesn't take away from the fact that Birthright is a great Superman story, and Birthright isn't made much better by Grounded being a little weird. They both exist separately.
Right.
But when I read Grounded, I'm going to be thinking about the points made and the other things I made, just as a point of saying, like, where does this put Superman in the way I think of him?
Well, it's the same way that when I read an origin story for Superman, like specifically Earth 1 or the New 52 Action Comics, like, I think that they're not good, because I have read Birthright.
Birthright,
that
right?
negatively affects my ability to read and enjoy a story.
Right, and that's it's
I
hard.
think that's the way you have to read a story.
Well, I agree that that's how your brain works, but I think that in a
Because-
lot of ways that you will be better. You'll be able to enjoy more things, and you will be better suited to looking at art if you can separate your mind from what you already know.
Well, and I think there's a difference between saying this A is not as good as B, therefore B is fucking meaningless and useless, and I never want to see it again, and going A is better than B, but B has its merits. You know,
I agree with that entirely.
Yeah.
I think that B can still have its merits no matter how good
and
A
I
is.
think that it is easier to see the merits of B if you can pretend like you've never seen A, or if you can sort of separate A out.
it could be a thing where
I realize that
It
that's,
could be exactly the opposite.
And I
though.
know that it's a totally philosophical argument because no one can really do that.
Yeah.
But I think that it's important to think about that when you're picking up a person's work that you have seen other things of them
Right.
from, because if you just like when you hear the second album of a band you love,
Yeah.
you're like, this isn't as good as their first album because you love
Because
that
it's
first
not
album,
that first
because
album.
it's not the same
Like,
thing. And
exactly.
then years later you'll go back and listen to album 2 and you'll realize that it was brilliant and you were just being an
it just
idiot
was in a
because
completely different direction,
album
right?
A was just so overpowering your ability to experience album B. Like,
Yeah.
I think that you can negatively affect your ability to enjoy things by being too influenced by
Right.
something.
Well,
so,
and I think
Well,
that's what's going
it's
on.
a game of expectations, and we've talked about managing expectations before.
It's hugely important.
I-
And I think you guys, what both of you guys are, you are not making mutually exclusive points. I think
No.
influence is important because it allows you to know where you stand.
and
And
also-
letting go of comparisons and just letting a work be a work is also important, because there are certain comic book stories that, for you, because it's such a personal medium, they're just never going to live up to other ones, you know?
And also I agree with Toby that like everything that you've seen and experienced like colors the way you look at the world, flavors the way you look at the world, because like you just can't separate that. Like you are the person that has experienced.
Absolutely.
The only person that you can be is the one that has experienced everything that you've experienced in your life. So like just like I have a dad. That affects the way that I read this book. Joe has a kid. I don't. Like, I read this book very differently than him, and I can't pretend that I have a child just to enjoy this book in the way that he does. I'm not able to. And so everybody's experience of fiction and of art is different just because we've lived different lives.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's hard, because then that's why people get into I hate the idea of someone has bad taste.
Right.
Well,
Well, and
all that
that's
means is you have taste
And
different than mine.
I was really interested to talk about this book because I think this book is, at the end of the day, I think the way you feel about this book is influenced mostly by the life you've lived and the interactions you've had with your family and with your friends and stuff like that. And if it doesn't, depending on where you come from, you're going to be looking for certain things.
Oh, I bet.
And if you don't find them, then you're gonna be like, fuck this.
I do have to say this in the spirit of full disclosure. I do consider myself a writer, and my father is a award-winning writer himself. And I think that very definitely influenced my reading of this book.
I was sure that it would influence
there would
you
be something
in some way that it could not influence me or Joe or Cade, because we don't have that in our lives.
Absolutely.
Also, I think that if you were from Brazil, this book probably hits you in a way that none of us being from America could because they're seeing places in this book, and the Gabriel and Fabio Moon are from Brazil. I'm sure that the scenery in this book is very realistic and very true. I bet there are people from Brazil who read this and go, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've seen that. And I'm sure that affects the way that they read this book very differently than the way that we'll be able to experience it.
The thing that kind of I find funny is I can't believe the story where he goes looking for Jorge out in the desert and Jorge ends up stabbing him and killing him didn't resonate, because that's going to be us.
Yeah, it was so easy to believe, because that's
He's going to be like, Joe, I found you. I traveled all this way. And I'm going to be like, oh, hey, what's up?
See, the thing is that we have a friend named Jorge who I can totally imagine that happening with. And you get to go in the fucking crazy shack on the beach first.
Yeah, no,
I'll wait outside.
I'm not. We'll stand outside with
We were all.
We'll stand outside with the first big trade of Dave Sims Cerebus, and we'll just kind of be like,
Jorge is actually a mutual friend of all of ours, and that's sort of when we first started hanging out. We were at Jorge's wedding.
Yep.
And that's when I first started hanging out with Joe.
I actually missed Jorge's wedding to my eternal
No, we were
regret.
at Brant's wedding.
Oh, Jorge
and Jorge was there with his
then
then fiance, I think.
That's what it was.
And they were not yet married. And
They were engaged, though.
They were engaged. And now that we're talking about this, I have a story that I think it's very short, and I think it perfectly encapsulates the place that Jorge holds. I was dropping him off one day at his apartment, and he turns to me and he says, I have a question for you. And I'm like, shoot. He goes, if you found out that you had been born with an extra limb and your parents had amputated it before you were as a baby, would you be upset? Which is the most ridiculous fucking question. But now that I've asked it, I put it to you, right? Think about it and try and give me a quick answer. You can't. Right? It's the most ridiculous fucking...
He's asked me the same question.
And I think it's like...
I could have had another arm?
My first instinct was, did it fucking work? Because if it did, then fuck yeah, I'm pissed because I could use that. But...
even if it didn't work, I would still want it.
I mean, this is Jorge. This is the kind of person he was. And he's yeah. I agree that we might...
His reactions to things are not the reactions I would expect a normal person to have.
That's true.
I always think that was Jorge's wedding because Jorge spent the week hanging out with me and Sam,
yes,
his fiance, beforehand, and we went out to the bars like every night that week before Brant's wedding.
Jorge actually once met, when I was down in California, because his mom lives in the San Fernando Valley, he came and met me, Audrey, and my two cousins, my uncle's kids, at Disneyland, and we were he showed up right as we were both at the fucking end of our endurance, because the girls had been fighting all day and we had been walking around dealing with people, and Jorge came up and he was just like, let's go play, and they all went like playing with him, and we were just like, thank you, God. Thank you.
Well, that was the week that I met Jorge. It was Brant's wedding.
Yeah.
Because I had heard stories, but he had moved away.
I think everybody does. But
I'm just going to tell one quick, since I guess we're telling Jorge stories. One of my fondest memories with Jorge is going out to stand in the snow with him, because he grew up in in LA, and he had never seen it snow before, ever. Like, we were in Brant's apartment playing video games, and Jorge came in and he was like, "It's snowing outside! It's magical! Oh my God, who wants to come out in the snow with me?" And like, it was me, who grew up in Pennsylvania, where it snowed like 6 feet every year, and Brant, who grew up in like Colorado Springs,
where fucking snows all the time.
And like, we were like, "No, we're not going outside with you. It's fucking snowing out. That's stupid." And he's like, "You all suck. God damn it." And I was like, "All right, fine, I'll go outside with you." And we went and we just stood in the snow for a while, and it was magical.
The funny thing is that like 90 minutes from LA, I think you can go up to Mount Arrowhead and there's fucking snow up there.
And that's the thing. He said he'd seen snow on the ground,
but
he'd just never seen it snowing.
Okay, that's fair.
That's
fair. That's an experience everybody needs to have once and only once, because there's never snow.
There are also more Jorge stories that I could tell, but this is neither the time nor the
We
place.
could devote a whole podcast to it, but
you guys should Skype him.
We'll Skype him.
Anyway, I think we've discussed the art form a ton. And was there anything else anyone wanted to add?
No, I think I'm done with this book forever.
No more vitriol. We can maybe if we like squeezed you from the sides.
My vitriol gland has been fully expressed.
Okay. I was like, if I show you pages, will it make you angry again? No. Okay.
No,
then let's move on to recommendations.
Let's do that thing that
Joe,
you said.
What would you like to recommend?
Yeah. Should I do the thing we talked about, or should I do the other thing?
I mean, sure? I don't know what the other book that you were going to recommend.
Well, I don't want to. I want to give you right of first refusal.
Yeah,
I don't want to step on your toes.
You can recommend the book that I've been saving to recommend. That's fine.
Well, I don't. That's what I
Joe,
don't want you to say.
Just recommend the goddamn book already.
Recommend it.
God damn it!
I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm gonna do the right thing.
You should recommend it. I want you to recommend it.
Okay, all right. I'm going to recommend. Me and Chard have been talking about this one a lot. Brian K. Vaughan, The Private Eye.
Yeah,
which is
an awesome sci-fi story.
It is really, it's really, really solid, and it's told really uniquely. Pretty much every page is a 2-page spread, and then it's like broken up into panels.
Well, it's
lengthwise,
widescreen.
So it's widescreen.
It is a comic that I've read that is developed totally 100% for the tablet
for tablets
like,
and for digital readers.
Very much like Mike Norton's Battle Pug. Like, it is designed first and foremost for being read on tablets.
Yeah, and
so the panels are all widescreen, kind of like Mouse Guard.
Yeah,
and like it reads very much like that.
And it feels it's got a great feel to it. It reminds me a lot. It's a future where, as far as I can tell, the press are the police.
Yeah.
And so they belong to the Fourth Estate, and they have press credentials instead of badges. And
well, it's because the universe is a very private unit. Like the setting is that we all keep our data stored in the cloud. It's a thing that we do. We keep everything there, and the thing that they keep calling it or keep saying is at one point in time the cloud burst. Yeah, and everyone's information just got spread out public. Randomly.
All
and
your
publicly.
Searches, all your texts, all that shit.
It just destroyed a lot of prominent people in the world because they had shit in their, in their browser history.
Dirty laundry everywhere.
And dirty laundry everywhere. And so now the new generation of young kids is very much about anonymity. Yeah. And so
everybody wears masks, or they have like holographic projectors, and it has a very almost transmet feel of like the future with like the kind of separation, like people don't really talk to each other, nobody looks like they really look. But it's good. It's like really good, and it's not like noir or hard boiled. It's just like
the private eye name is a little deceptive because it
has more to do with the fact he's not a detective. He's like, they call him a paparazzo. Yeah, like he's a like paparazzi, but it should be paparazzo.
That's private press, right?
Yeah,
so he's private police,
and pretty much he does things like background checks for people and stuff like that, and
he finds people.
Yeah, and
that don't want to be found because everybody's anonymous.
Yeah, exactly, and basically.
The story revolves around somebody comes to he wants
she wants a background check
on herself.
Yeah,
which is very odd, and so that kind of kicks off the whole thing. And it's a great sci-fi story. The setting of sci-fi is really awesome. Like, there's this cool. It's basically LA, right? And there's these cool like out of town like all this pipe work and like industrialized stuff that's been turned into housing for people that don't want to live in the city and like want to get away and hide off of the grid sort of. And so there's all these like layers to the futuristic society. It's not all like Transmet where it's just kind of all
absolutely.
How many issues are there of this?
There are 5.
5
The last one came out in December. And,
did it?
Yeah, and the cool thing about this series is it's pay what you want.
Yes, which is the other reason I wanted to give
their
it a
website.
shout
So
out.
if you want it to be free, you can. If you want to pay for it, you're more than welcome to. Marcos Martin is the artist on this.
And the art is great. It's awesome. Like really bold colors,
super bold
which
colors.
Is odd because you hear detective story, and I'm talking Toby specifically for this part. It circumvents a lot of the things you think of when you hear Private Eye. You're like, oh, it's a detective story, but it really does not read that way.
And it's also it's cool that it is such bright colors because it's intended to be read digitally. Those colors like pop way more than they would
they really
in print.
do. And the widescreen really gives like the action scenes a real sense of like urgency and action.
And like lots of stuff takes place in the daytime and like
bright
LA,
most of it takes
so
place in the daytime,
like
as far
really
as I can tell.
But yeah, I urge everyone to at least go out and download the first issue and just try it because, like, I didn't pay for the first issue, and then I bought all the rest of the issues, and I paid enough to make up.
I haven't paid
I
for
the first one.
Yeah.
But that's because like I wanted this is basically like I wanted a teaser. I wanted to read the first one and see if I wanted to invest in it. And I think that that's awesome. And I hope that the future of comics moves to a distribution idea that's more like that.
Yeah.
Comixology gives away a ton of first issues of stuff on Comixology for free. I'm so about that. I paid $1 for each of the issues because, except for the second issue, I paid $2 for that to make up for the fact that I didn't buy the first one. But because I really do think that you can support the industry on $1 price point on digital issues. So
to be totally honest, I illegally downloaded a lot of stuff.
Oh, me too.
And I've paid for a lot of the stuff that I've downloaded because I'm very much in favor of the idea of try before you buy.
Well, and
absolutely.
also
and supporting things that are legitimately worthwhile to you.
Oh, absolutely. And voting with your dollars is exactly what that is. And also in this way, because it's being distributed by the people that wrote it, I know that money went to them. Mm-hmm. You know, when I give DC $3 for a, you know, which I don't ever do anymore, but like when I give Marvel $3 or $4 for a physical copy of the comic book, half of that goes to the comic book store, which is great because I want to support those stores. But then part of that goes to Diamond, which I don't want to support because I absolutely hate them. And then part of it goes to printing it in Canada, which is fine, I guess, but weird. And then...
No, fuck the Canucks.
Yeah. Toby's coming down hard. All of our Canadian listeners
looks like
done.
they might hire my girlfriend, so let's not talk shit about
I'm
them.
just joking. I love the Canadians. They're beautiful people.
I spent a lot of time in Canada playing hockey growing up, so I am fond of that country.
I've never been to Canada despite living like a day trip away from it for the last
Victoria.
I like it. I've been
Victoria's
Victoria's fucking beautiful. And I love Vancouver, BC is one of my favorite cities in the world. I also spent a week in Toronto, which was fun, but I don't like nearly as much as...
I think this book just has me feeling ordinary.
Yeah. However, it's nice to be able to give money to the people that deserve it.
Directly to the people.
Directly to them. Yeah. And then I don't have to worry about like who gets a cut of that. It's like when you buy a CD from iTunes and it's like, oh, so I paid $10 and the artist got 4 pennies from that. Like,
exactly.
What am I really paying for?
Yeah,
so
much better to go to the show and give them money.
I love being able to give money right to the creators. And I think Brian K. Vaughan and Marcus Martin have like struck on something really awesome here that I'm all about. So I'm going to be purchasing all of the issues that come out for this. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Great. I think that's awesome. And
I'm really taking
of comics, man.
Yeah.
Digital shit. So.
And I think it's got a solid... I mean, I haven't read issue 5 yet, so I'm not sure how that'll go towards, advancing the plot or anything, but
I mean, it is
I'm on
unfinished.
issue 4 and I feel like it's moved at a really good pace.
It is unfinished, which is why I was a little hesitant to recommend it, but it has no determined endpoint because they're distributing it basically for free. They're paying for it out of their pocket, so it's not going to get canceled. It just may take a long time between issues coming out, which is nothing is cool. But if 20 years down the road they're still making this because they still have passion for the universe, like that's awesome. That's great. And
even if we don't choose it, you all heard about it, so run your little asses out there and buy it.
Go try it. Go try that first issue for free and see what you think, because I think there's no excuse not to at least try this.
There really isn't. There really isn't. And it's new and it's interesting. I really am enjoying it.
So, Cade, what you got?
Okay, so I was recently introduced to the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer for the movie coming out this August, and it looks awesome.
So good.
And it got me into the mood to read some Guardians of the Galaxy. So this week I am pitching the Marvel Now Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, nice.
When it relaunched, written by Brian Michael Bendis, art by Steve McNiven and Sarah Pichelli.
God, I love Sarah Pichelli.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
one of my favorite artists.
I'm sorry.
Maybe I will. Stop me.
I think she's already married.
Just let me know.
Probably.
That doesn't matter.
She's a classy lady. I have no idea, actually.
Yeah, she's a fantastic artist. So,
really, this is the story of Star-Lord, Gamora, Groot, Drax, and Rocket Raccoon.
It's really interesting that is the cast of the movie too. It's a massive coincidence on Marvel's part.
Yeah, I really didn't see that one coming. This is actually the second recent Guardians of the Galaxy series. There was an old one back in the 90s that was set in like the 30th century. It was basically the Avengers of the future.
Right.
And then after
Annihilation.
Yeah,
was it Annihilation Wave or Annihilation Conquest?
It was after Annihilation, before Annihilation Conquest. Because Annihilation Conquest, the trade opens with the Star-Lord miniseries, the 4-issue miniseries, and that's where he's getting the Guardians of the Galaxy together, is in that 4-issue miniseries.
Right, so it was during Annihilation Conquest.
Yeah, after Annihilation.
Right.
before the Annihilation Conquest main series, but
Right.
in the trades,
the Annihilation Conquest series is really, it was like 4 individual series that then led into the main.
Right, exactly the same way that
Conquest
Annihilation
book.
happened. Right.
And Guardians of the Galaxy started off in that series and then went for like 30-something issues.
Yeah.
And then ended and was relaunched as the Marvel Now Guardians of the Galaxy, which is what Cade's pitching.
Yeah,
Correct.
which is the team from the movie.
And if you go pick up, I think it's issue, is it 11 of the single issue, issue 11? It has a digital code in it for not only issue 11 but the first trade for free.
Wow.
So you can get the first trade for $4 by buying that issue, because it's the part 2. It says it's part 2, I think, or part 1 of the Trial of Jean Grey.
Okay.
Is in that Guardians of the Galaxy series. So if you pick up that issue, it should have the digital code for the whole first trade, which is a fantastic fucking deal. And Marvel's been doing that. They did that with Captain America and a bunch of their stuff.
And that trade is what I'm recommending.
So yeah, you can get that trade for $4.
And it features fan favorite Angela, newly imported from the Spawn universe.
She's not
Wait.
in the first trade.
That's a
Is she not?
whole other story.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess she's probably in volume 2 then.
I thought you were going to say fan favorite Rocket Raccoon because
He's
Rocket
my
Raccoon
favorite.
is pretty cool.
he is a
I'm
fan
not gonna lie.
favorite. And
Blam, murdered you.
I love that Bradley Cooper is doing his voice.
Yeah.
We want you to be in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Oh, really? Who do you want me to be? The raccoon.
The raccoon with guns.
Yes.
Every actor's dream.
My dream.
Voice of
I'm
raccoon with
still
guns.
flabbergasted that they got Vin Diesel to play Groot
The voice
of
instead
Groot.
of Drax the Destroyer, the character who is physically based on him.
Right.
But
That's
whatever.
That's a little weird.
Well,
I
they
don't
got
necess-
Batista.
Batista to play Drax.
Yeah,
is
so?
awesome.
Who is less good by a country mile.
Yes, but it pleases me to no end that there is a recording out there of 4 hours of Vin Diesel saying "I am Groot" in different ways. Just
took it very
imagining that,
seriously.
I'm just like,
I love Vin Diesel. I think he's great.
I do too.
He's a huge nerd, though.
I think
yeah.
that the thing we're all forgetting is that regardless of who he is in Guardians of the Galaxy, he was not the Vision, which I think Paul Bettany is going to be.
And Paul Bettany is going to be an incredible Vision.
Yeah, and Vin Diesel
Yeah.
would have not been an incredible Vision.
I
Sorry,
didn't even
Vin
realize
Diesel.
that was an option.
I
Well,
didn't
no,
either.
he wanted to. He was pushing hard for it.
Oh.
I can
And
see that.
Well, that'd be cool to be a robot.
I mean, I just don't. I think that Vin Diesel's skills lie in a different arena.
I also think that this is a conversation for a back matter episode.
Yeah.
Did
Well,
you
we
wanna
just
say-
had it. Why are we ever going to have it again?
Did you want to say anything else about Guardians of the Galaxy, Cade?
I don't know.
I mean-
it's a fun story. It's some aliens come to Earth. Tony Stark joins with the Guardians of the Galaxy and to fight them off, and has sex with Gamora, who he can't keep up
Spoilers.
with. It's in like the second book.
I know, I'm teasing you.
I don't know. It was funny.
That's actually really funny because after we did the Infinity Gauntlet, I went back and like read a whole ton of Adam Warlock comics. And at one point, the Infinity Watch is just broken up, and Gamora's like, "I'm gonna go talk to Tony Stark and join Force Works," because it was the fucking 90s, and they had the most ridiculous goddamn team name. But she's like, "I wonder if he even remembers me."
That's great. I love that Marvel has these like little things like in their past, and something that they're doing super well right now is being like, oh yeah, remember that thing we did like 20 years ago? Like, let's bring that up again. I love it.
I'm a fan.
And it happens in this book. And this also, don't feel like you have to have read Annihilation and Annihilation Wave to read this.
I
Like,
have
they
not.
designed it so that you don't have to read that stuff.
Yeah, I jumped right on with this Marvel Now
And
stuff.
so it's cool.
Yeah, like half the team from the previous version of the book is gone, and
Yeah.
it is a fresh new starting point.
Yep.
Like you will not feel lost jumping onto this.
Unless you feel lost in general, in which case
Well, we're
there's
sorry.
not much we can do for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
So great.
In which case, this is not actually the CNN news that you're listening to.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
That's-
a different. Skip this episode. CNN's on next.
We'll be talking about Justin Bieber.
That's not news.
It's CNN,
Shelby.
though.
What do you want?
So
Good pitch.
I am also pitching a science fiction comic that is free online.
Whoa!
And I was like doing my best to memorize it. I completely forgot the author's name. But it's a webcomic that ran from 2010 to the end of 2013. It's called Space Trawler. The series has ended now, and it's basically... So it's a universe where much of galactic civilization is run based on a race of aliens called Ebes. And Ebes have vast telekinetic powers. You basically ask them to make anything, and they can just make it in a matter of seconds using their like incredible telekinetic powers. They also have no will at all. Like there's debate as to whether they're even sentient because they will literally do anything you ask them to do. They have no will of their own. They don't ever do anything. You just have to tell them what to do all the time.
Christopher Baldwin.
Thank you.
Is the author on Space Trawler.
That's true. It's a very
and the series is about this group that believes that the Ebes are enslaved and that they should be free. And so they go to Earth and they kidnap 6 humans from all around the Earth. And their goal is to take them to basically like the Galactic Council to claim Earth's sea that is unclaimed because Earth has not developed space travel yet. So that they can introduce legislation to basically try and abolish slavery of Ebes. And that plan just gets horribly fucking derailed from the get-go because these people are all goddamn psychopaths of one kind or another. And it's humorous. It's an incredibly funny story. It's very adventuresome. There's just a lot of interesting character moments. The designs are really good. The art isn't necessarily always the best, but you kind of get into it, and I generally enjoy it. And you can read it all for free because
like
it's a
webcomic. Young webcomic artist, like they're gonna have tons of potential. So it'll definitely be cool to like track his career as he goes. He's got 2 other series that are going on now.
Yeah, and I'm reading one of those.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what the second one was. I didn't know that it had been announced.
I can look it up in a sec. But what also noticed is, although it's free to read online, you can get a PDF of all 402 pages of it for $12, which is like a fucking steal.
Nice. You can also get
That's
there's
the first
paperback editions. There's 3 books that are I think $20 each if you want the print ones.
Yeah,
which I mean that's a pretty standard deal.
Yeah, and a PDF for $12 for the whole thing, like that's outrageous. That's the kind of pricing I'm talking about. Digital comics. The other 2 books are Bruno and Little D. He does that's what it says on here.
Okay.
So I'm looking at his website.
I haven't looked at his website in like 4 months.
Yeah.
So
it's yeah.
I couldn't even remember the guy's name. I'm just that tired.
Yeah.
But
I'm just on his website.
I've been reading the comic for the last 3 years. It just wrapped up a few months ago. It's a really great story. It's a lot of fun. If you like science fiction, it's lighthearted. It's not necessarily all ages, but I think Audrey, for example, could read it. I mean,
if I could get her to read anything.
Teens. Yeah.
Cool. It's at spacetrawler.com.
Yeah.
It's everything that he's got. So just go there and check it out and read it for free. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Sweet.
Chard, what did you bring this week?
I also brought a Marvel book, and I brought one of my favorite Marvel books of all time.
Dun, dun, dun.
Is it Dakota North?
It is not. Starring my favorite Marvel character
Patsy
of
Walker?
all time. No.
Is it Blade?
Old Man Logan?
No, my favorite Marvel character is Wolverine as an old man. No.
Yes.
I guess my favorite character is in that book, though.
From the Midnight Suns storyline.
Dude, the Blade, I love the Midnight Suns. I've always wanted sidetrack. You sidetracked me. I've always wanted the Order of the Triad to expand into like a Midnight Suns style organization. Because they have Jefferson Twilight and Dr. Orpheus, who are the Blade and Doctor Strange analogies.
That's totally true.
So they just need a couple more members, and they could totally be the Midnights. Anyway, side story. No, it's a Hulk comic because Hulk is my favorite Marvel character, as we all know. And this is, in my opinion, the best Hulk story ever written, which is Planet Hulk.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Future Imperfect for a second there.
Future Imperfect is my favorite.
Right.
But I don't think that it is the best.
Actually, I'm glad that you pitched that because I've been meaning to pitch it for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite want to steal it out from under you.
Yeah. I've been meaning to pitch this for ever. kind of forget that it's as good as it is. And I just reread it again. I'm just like, God damn it, I fucking love that series. And it brings up so many interesting points about the Marvel Universe, essentially. And it furthers my idea that Reed Richards is a dick and a villain, because the premise of this book is that Reed Richards and the Illuminati group of terrible, awful people, or Marvel,
the world's greatest heroes, as Marvel calls them,
has decided to fix, quote unquote, their problem with the Hulk, which is they're going to get rid of him. So they're going to shoot him. They trick him into going to fix this satellite. They're like, Hulk, only you can fix a satellite, which is like, well, I mean, they need Banner. So they're going to send Banner up to fix the satellite. And then they trick him into getting into this rocket, and they launch him out into space. And they are going to send him to a planet in which there's no sentient life. It's just this peaceful planet of, you know, awesome landscapes and cool times, and you know, they'll get Hulk out of the way, and it'll be fine. There's like indigenous creatures, but they're not like, they don't have civilization. They're not sentient.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's actually if you want to see what he eats, it's in Marvel What If Planet Hulk, where he actually lands on the right planet, because Hulk immediately like smashes the machinery and gets sucked into a portal that launches him deep into space, and he crash lands on a gladiator planet full of like hundreds of evil.
It's basically
monsters.
Space Conan.
It is very much Space Conan, and the Hulk is very much a Conan character, because Conan's very clever, and he doesn't get that cleverness by being inherently clever. He learned that cleverness by like living through a lot of weird situations. Like, Conan is just strong enough to survive the stuff that would kill a normal man, and so by
smart enough
living,
to learn from what he's done before.
and by living through it, he's learned something. Like, he's not inherently a clever character, and I feel the same way about Hulk. Hulk is like,
well, he's cunning.
Hulk has seen everything, and that's why he knows how to do what he does. Like, that's how he knows how to get out of situations, is because he's fucking been there, done that, because nothing can kill him.
This is a relatively intelligent incarnation of the Hulk. Like, he's not stupid meat Hulk smash.
No.
And he's not smart Hulk either. He's not Banner Hulk.
Right.
He's like Warrior Hulk.
Yeah, he's how I think that a lot of really great writers have portrayed Hulk, which is like, you know, Banner's this super intelligent, like maybe second or third smartest person in the entire Marvel universe. Like, he's an absolute genius. And
definitely top 5.
Yeah, absolutely top 5. Like, and he would definitely be doing.
You guys can't do that to me, because you say that and I immediately start compiling a list. I'm like, okay, Reed Richards, Tony Stark,
Doctor Doom.
Well, probably put Banner above Doctor Doom.
But I think that
I didn't say that Banner was number 5. I said top 5.
Yeah, no, but I'm doing the same thing in my head.
Yeah,
I'm like, Hank Pym's probably not as smart as Banner. I mean, all he's ever done is invent
Doom's
particles.
not as smart. I would put Peter Parker above
Ultron.
Doom.
I know, I'm joking. I like,
because that worked out really well.
It worked out great.
Doom's the Thomas Edison of the fucking Marvel universe. He's like,
no, Reed
that's really good tech, Reed. I'm just going to use
Reed
this over
is
here.
the fucking Thomas Edison of
Reed's just a dick. Reed's dickness exceeds any analogy.
Anyway, Banner's incredibly smart, but Hulk is not like dumb. Like, Hulk is just not that smart. Like, he's not Bizarro. He's not like, me Hulk, me think good. Like, that's not how I think that Hulk works.
No, like, Hulk's answer for everything is punch it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, he's a creature made of pure anger and violence.
Well, people mistake the fact that he is a creature of rage with being stupid, and it's not. It's this that when he calms down, he reverts. So when he's angry, like when he's written well, he's got like an animal cunning to him. He knows what's going on. He's not going to...
If he punches something and it solves the problem, then he doesn't have to think about it.
Right.
And I mean, come on. Can't we all relate to that a little bit?
Well, and
he's
also
basically thrust into a situation where he can punch everything. And a lot of it can stand up.
Yeah, and also, like, he's weakened at the beginning of the story because he goes through the portal and
because
like weakens everything. Yeah, he has whatever. And they say that everything that shows up through that portal is like weak. And so they're able to capture him and enslave him, this empire that rules this planet, and they put him into gladiatorial combat, basically. And so it's like part Conan, part gladiator, Conan was a gladiator. He was like a pit fighter.
Beta Ray Bill even shows up.
Nope.
No, Silver
that was
Surfer.
That's only in the movie Beta Ray Bill shows up.
Oh,
They were,
lame.
because they didn't own the rights to who actually shows up in this, which is
The Silver Surfer, because the Silver Surfer is a fantastic
And he's,
character.
he's
Fuck
only
you,
guest
Fox.
stars in like one issue.
Yeah, he's barely in it.
Just in case you were worried that was a spoiler.
It's
But
not.
one of the Rockmen from Saturn shows up,
Yeah,
which is odd.
We
Even
all
though they're not actually
know
from
you
Saturn.
were waiting
Right.
for that one.
but there's more than one of them too. Show up,
Yeah, I guess
so,
that is.
Yeah.
True. It's been a
Which is
while. I read it when it came out.
Actually, one of my favorite scenes in the whole book is the Rockman on Rockman confrontation. But anyway, yeah, this book is just like exploring, and I say that it's a great Hulk story, and it is a Hulk story exclusively. Like Banner is in literally, I think, one panel of this entire book, and it's a silhouette.
I think it's more than
shadow
one
of
panel,
him.
but it's one page.
Yeah, and
He
because
he says like three things.
he's angry the whole time he's there because he's not supposed to be there, and he's pissed off at Reed and Tony and the other members of the Illuminati, and so
Which I've heard never gets a satisfying conclusion because World War Hulk was not.
And I
It was
never
pretty terrible.
finished reading it because I was so angry that they had brought him back.
Because really, there's only the thing is you put him in that position. This is the Hulk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's really, really mad at these people. And so, what is the Hulk going to do? He's going to go back, and he's not going to stop until they're all dead. But
Right.
oh wait, you've just put like most of your fucking A-list on that.
Yeah.
that you can't do it, right?
I
So
think
it's
that
like,
World War Hulk should have been a what if story in which he just
Does come back-
fucking
yeah, no,
kills
absolutely.
Reed and is like, no.
because
no
I think
more
we
messing
all
with
want,
people.
no matter how much you like Iron Man, I think everybody would be a little
Well,
bit happy,
especially
at,
at
seeing
this
his
time
smug,
because
like-
it was post Civil War.
Oh,
so
God,
it would have
that-
been
yeah.
like really cathartic to see.
He just would have like
Hulk
smashed
just
the armor with
crunching
Tony,
the
and it would
armor
have just been like dripping out of the
for an hour.
seams.
It would have been like that gif of Green Lantern gave me shit kicked out of him by Parademons.
We need to watch that movie just for that gif.
I want to. I just watched the GIF. That's more than I
the
need. I
GIF
don't
is
want to
great.
watch the movie.
Just watch the GIF again.
Yeah, did I tell you that I found it where it's just infinitely them punching Green Lantern forever. Like, it's great. Anyway, no, I think this is great. I think that if you are not sure how to get into reading the Hulk because his history is like fucking the most convoluted thing ever,
Yeah.
and most of his books are bad. Like he's my favorite character, but I'm going to be the first to admit that 90% of the books about Hulk aren't that great.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see a good story, and I think if you've never read the Hulk before, this is an awesome way to read it, get into that character, and it's awesome. And it's also not super steeped in the continuity of the time, because it was a really like event heavy, continuity heavy time, because it was like post Civil War, it was like Dark Reign, and then there's all this stuff, but Hulk kind of skirts it by
Not being there.
not being there.
Yeah.
So Planet Hulk is really awesome.
Yep.
Right?
Good story.
Everyone should read it. And the covers by Ladron, gorgeous. I want posters
Well,
of those.
Gorgeous?
Gorgeous. They're
That was
gorgeous.
kind
They're
of it
gorgeous.
for me.
Give me your eye, old pirate.
They're
bard.
gorgeous.
I
Joe?
want posters of those. Joe, what do you want to read?
You know what? I was I was like leaning towards Planet Hulk, and then you said covers by Ladron, and I was like, that's it. Planet Hulk.
All right.
Also, because I keep thinking of the Duran Duran song Planet Earth, but substituting Hulk in for Earth,
Oh, nice.
and it's very catchy.
Sweet. Cade, what would you like to read?
Yes.
I'll vote next.
All of it? We're reading all of it. Next week will be 4 times as
This
long.
is Planet Hulk.
I'm going to vote for Private Eye.
Nice. Cade?
This is establishing a really weird pattern where this is the third week in a row you voted for my book.
I don't keep track of those things.
I'm going to vote for Toby's webcomic.
Space Trawler.
Tiebreaker, and you can't vote for your
Oh,
own
I
book.
also get my vote actually counts this week,
It does, yeah.
which is awesome. So I'm gonna vote for Guardians of the Galaxy. Show canceled.
So, hey,
You guys can't let me do
the
that.
floor is rumbling.
It was a good run.
They
Yeah,
all
we're done.
died. 'cause
Thanks, everybody.
The
Thanks
whole
for
room
listening,
exploded.
This
Pick
is
up
a
your gift basket
really
on the way
tough
out.
one. This is really hard. Sorry.
You know how I
Okay,
feel.
I'm thinking about this because I'm weighing the options in my head. One, I've never read the webcomic that Toby recommended, Space Trawler, so I'm going to read that regardless. Two, they're both free, so that's great. So there's no excuse not to play along on this episode.
I was going to pitch something else that I previously pitched before, And when I heard Joe's pitch, I just took it and I put it away. And I was like, what else can I pitch? Because I don't want to pitch this again when it's not going to get picked. Because I thought that Private Eye was a really strong pitch.
Well, and I think that it's a great series. I don't know that we'll have a ton to talk about, but we actually probably will because it's a really cool universe.
Yeah,
so I'm going to read Space Trawler, but I'm going to pick Private Eye for us to read.
I think it'll afford us...
Also, I was going to pitch it anyway, so I should really pick it because I want to talk about it.
I think it'll afford us a unique opportunity to maybe do some expostulation and
also,
kind of talk about where we think it's going to go.
We've pitched Brian K. Vaughan books on the show because we definitely have pitched both Pride of Baghdad and Saga.
Yep.
But have we ever talked about a Brian K. Vaughan?
No, we've not.
So
this will be our first.
Why the Last Man was also pitched.
Yeah.
And we're totally going to do that on a long run just to make Joe's head explode.
I just won't read the last episode, and I'll fake knowing what any of you are talking about.
That's fair. That's fine.
So the last issue, I'll just leave that off and read up to that point.
Read Private Eye.
Yep.
And then read Space Trawler later.
I should say where you can get it. Fill time. Ready to go. Sing a song. I can just cut to it.
This is Planet Hulk. Smash, 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 smash. No, nothing? No. Apparently, I'm not
Sunshine, Lollipops, and
Puny Joe.
I'm not Simon
that's
LeBon.
Good is what I feel when we're together.
That's how I feel too.
It's called Panels Syndicate or PanelSyndicate.com.
Yeah.
PanelSyndicate.com.
And then I read that the other day, and I was like, why the fuck isn't this podcast named Panel Syndicate? Because that would be a great name. Because we're kind of like
that would be our name if we were an 80s new wave band.
Yeah.
It would work for that too.
Yeah. So PanelSyndicate.com is where you can get Private Eye for free. You can get it in a lot of different formats. You can get it as PDFs. You can get it as
CBR, CBZ. You can get it in different resolutions,
you can get it in
I think.
4 different languages, too. Yeah. So
there's really no reason
for all of our listeners that listen to our simulcast in French or Spanish.
Yeah.
You're covered.
Yeah, you can.
There's only one guy that does the French simulcast, and he has to do all 4 of us.
And if you're listening to us and you only speak Russian, I'm very sorry for you.
Yeah, we'll get to that one.
Let's go. We don't have a Russian guy yet.
We have people listening from a lot of places I wouldn't have expected us to have people listening from, to be fairly honest.
Yeah, we went through the list at one point. There were a lot of countries I didn't even know were countries.
Myanmar. Is that even a place anymore? I don't think it is.
All right.
You mean Borneo?
Is it? You mean...
It's still technically Myanmar, but the dictatorship there people don't like, and they don't necessarily respect the junta that changed the name to Myanmar because Borneo is equally valid as a name, historically speaking.
That's fair.
An interesting lesson in world geography.
That's a very useful piece of information to have at your fingertips.
Yeah. All right. And so everybody read Private Eye. Also read all the other books, and we'll catch you.
And read the Wikipedia entry on Myanmar.
Yes.
And read ElfQuest.
And read ElfQuest.
Because that's coming up very soon. And
basically, call into your job, cancel your plans with your girlfriend and your friends, turn off the Xbox and the PlayStation and the Wii, and just start reading from now until we tell you to stop.
Sweet. He didn't say turn off your PC.
Oh,
okay, because you might be reading comics on your PC, but do get off of
Don't play any more Hearthstone.
No more Hearthstone.
Okay. We have books to read. All right. We'll see you next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to View from the Gutters. I hope our recommendations have inspired you to go out and find some new comics you'll enjoy. Join us next time for a discussion of our selected title, but like every week, we encourage you to read all of the recommended books. In the meantime, please leave us an iTunes review. It really does help new listeners find the show. You can also like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at ViewFRTHGutters. Feel free to email us at contact@viewfromthegutters.com. Please send us any questions, comments, or recommendations you might have. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as we post new videos every week. And thanks again for listening. And as always, keep reading.